Last night, Shadowhunters, the TV show, premiered on Freeform, which was formerly known as ABC Family, and I, like a lot of you guys, watched it. There were things about it I liked, there were things about it I didn't like, but overall, I really enjoyed it, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what I thought of the show. So, being that it was the pilot episode, I will admit it wasn't the best. Overall, it wasn't horrible, and I actually thought it was pretty decent. It had that typical pilot episode awkwardness, it had that info dump overwhelmedness. It had a little bit of that I wanted it to be like the book, and it's clearly not going to be feeling to it. But like I said, overall, it was really good despite this, and maybe even because of it. And I think the main reason for this is the cast. I think the cast is magnificent. Matthew Daddario, he gets Alec Lightwood. He is Alec Lightwood. He looks perfect. Emeratopia is great as Isabel Lightwood. She's got the personality down pat. She looks the part. She's great. Dominic Sherwood is excellent as Jace. Catherine McNamara is great as Clary. I think she looks just like her. And she's got kind of that awkward, needy, whiny personality that Clary did have. I like the rest of the cast as well. I don't know who most of the adults are. I know that Henry Shum plays Magnus. Magnus wasn't really featured in this episode very much. He had like a few short scenes here and there, but I already love him. He looks like Magnus. I've been watching him on Instagram, and I know that he's in love with this part, so I think he's going to be freaking excellent. The actress who plays Jocelyn is amazing. She's totally believable. The actor who plays Valentine, oh my gosh, he is perfection. The actor who plays Luke, Isaiah Mustafa, I want to say is his name. I love him. I know a lot of people were upset they changed his race to black, but I don't really get why that's a problem. Like, he wasn't part of the Aryan nation, so I don't know why he can't be black. Overall, I just really, really liked the cast, and I think a huge part of that was the fact that whatever other changes that Freeform has made to the Shadowhunters story from the books, I think it works because the characters are still the same. Like, they didn't change any of the characters drastically. Their personalities are the same. Their motivations are the same. And I think the actors understand that. So even though, like, there were changes in it, I still felt like I was watching the same people I read about in the books, just put into slightly different situations and different circumstances and different chronological order. Obviously, there were a lot of differences, and I know that's one of the problems that a lot of people had, is they just wanted an exact replica of the books on TV, which I don't blame them. Like, that's totally what I want. Like, that's the reason that we like book-to-movie adaptations, is because we want to see the book played out word for word on the screen. Like, I know I'm not the only one who would gladly watch 24 hours straight of Harry Potter in order to get every single scene and Quidditch match and line of dialogue inserted into that story. But I can understand why they did it in this situation, and in this situation it kind of works, while I know in others it doesn't necessarily, but like I said, in this one I think it does. Some of the main differences I noticed in this were that the Institute is different. It's like all white and glass and high tech. It's got all of this technology, and I didn't like that. That was one thing that I didn't like, because it totally, that's one thing I felt like the Institute was a character, it had its own personality, and they totally changed that, and that bothers me. And it was also full of people, instead of just only about 6 people live here. So I didn't really enjoy that. But another change was that Simon's band now just consists of him and a girl named Maureen. If you read the books, you know who Maureen is. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, because at this point, Maureen is in love with Simon, and Simon is in love with Clary. So I just have a bad feeling about Maureen and Clary getting into it later, even though right now they're friendly. Then how the Shadowhunters meet Clary is also very, very different. I actually think this is one difference that works better, because, in the books, he sees Clary, and she sees him, and he's like, she can see me, she's probably a Shadowhunter. But that doesn't take into account the fact that we learn in the Infernal Devices that there are just people with the sight. They can just see through glamours. So he doesn't know that Clary is a shadow hunter. And his whole, okay, well, she could see us, so I just thought it was a sure thing, doesn't really work. In this, even though it was kind of filmed awkwardly and Clary seemed like a complete dumbass doing it, how he figured it out was not only could she see him, but when he dropped his angel blade and the blade disappeared, she picked it up and the blade came back out. And so that's how he knew that she was Nephilim. And I wish that it had been filmed and executed a little better, but overall I like the idea because to me that does make a little more sense. Obviously they've all been aged up because they were 15, 16 years old in the books, but in this they're 18 years old. This episode started on Clary's 18th birthday as she was going to audition for art school. And she got in, and then her mom gives her the stele. By the way, I thought it was pronounced still. Now as I know it's called a stele, I hate it. I hate it. Stele sounds awful. Like, I know that a lot of you probably knew that it was called a stele the whole time, but it sounds freaking atrocious. But that is another change, was for Clary's 18th birthday, Jocelyn was giving her her stele. And she wanted to give her this whole talk about what she was, and what it was like to be a shadow hunter, and why they'd been hiding for so long, and Clary's like, no, Mom, you don't understand. I gotta go. And what kind of threw me off was that her mom let her. But, I would have thought that a situation that important, you would have sat her down right there because you said yourself that the glamours were wearing off and the wards were wearing off and everything the Magnus Bane had done for her previously was done. So to allow your daughter to go out in the city, which you know is full of downworlders, when she doesn't even know downworlders exist and the glamour is now peeled back from her eyes, seems a little idiotic and irresponsible. I really did like that Dorothea is in this episode. I don't know if she's going to come back, but right now she's known as Dot. They've aged her down a lot. She works for Clary's mom because they live in an apartment above like this art gallery, I think, or like this, I don't know, it's like a small museum / art gallery, and I really enjoyed that actually. I liked that, like I said, that Dot was aged down and she was someone who Clary was intimately friendly with. Like, she was closer to her own age than to Jocelyn's age, and they were really close, and Dot knew all of Jocelyn's secrets, except presumably where the Mortal Cup was hidden. I'm not sure though. And then I like that Dot physically intervened to try to protect Jocelyn when the circle arrives later. Luke is a cop instead of owning a bookstore, which I actually really enjoyed because it doesn't change who Luke is for me. And I think that it's going to open up this TV show to a ton of different possibilities that they can explore and different angles they can go, and it'll kind of give them a better reason for the Shadowhunters to kind of get involved in these downworld crimes instead of, oh, we just heard about it, or, oh, the downworlders reported it to us. Because I think it's slightly more realistic that instead of oh, the downworlders reporting every downworld crime to us, they kind of find out about it through normal human means of investigation and police calls and 911. So I really like that. I think it's going to be a really interesting concept that they can do a lot of things with. And I just have to say, the music in this episode killed it. I watched those sneak peeks where Clary's wandering through the pandemonium, stalking Jace like a creep, and that music, I loved it in that. The music throughout the whole episode is even better than that. It's just fantastic. I think that the scoring was awesome. Whoever is choosing their music, they better never fire them because they are fantabulous. I just want them to keep it up. And overall, I just really loved this. There were some changes with personality. Alex's personality stayed the same. Clary's personality stays the same. Simon's personality is the same. Everybody's personality is the same except Izzy's. Because Izzy is instantly friendly with Clary and open to her, and I really like that because somehow, to me, Isabel being kind of standoffish at first, even though she's so confident in herself, didn't really vibe well with me. So I really like this open, honest, friendly Izzy who wants to form a friendship with Clary from the very, very beginning. And I really loved Isabel's interactions with everybody. I was kind of thrown off in that scene where she takes off her wig and is doing this really slow erotic dance on this table. I don't really know why, but okay. And on top of that, there were some things that are obviously were the same. Like I said, the characters were the same, especially Valentine. Valentine Morgenstern in this episode is exactly how I pictured him. He physically looks the same. He behaves the same. He's doing the same kind of shit. He's in love with Jocelyn and willing to kill anyone who talks shit about her, but he's also so pissed off at her that he's planning to keep her prisoner. And he's planning to do awful things to her, but don't you dare say a word against her, or else he will stab you in the neck with a needle and you will die. Another thing that I really loved that they changed was they're starting to do this thing where they're incorporating all of these other elements into it, because in the books, you know, they switch from perspectives a lot, but you only get a couple perspectives. You don't know what's going on outside of these perspectives. So I like that they came in when the circle comes after Jocelyn and Jocelyn fights him off and then takes that potion, because it wasn't cheesy. It was really well done, and it kind of gave me a better insight into what happened, because obviously their homing situation is different than it was in the books. But in the books, I always just imagined that she locked herself in the bathroom and then just like cowered in a corner and like sipped on a tiny vial. Whereas in this one, she comes out with her angel swords blazing and she's like fighting off a big group of them. And then she's like, "You'll never take me." And then she just chugs this huge ass friggin' potion and she's just like, bam, hits the floor. And they're like, oh shit. I loved it. I loved it. I am looking forward to more of these scenes where they're showing like these side characters and these other characters who are very important to the story, but don't necessarily get their story or their perspectives in certain situations told throughout the books. Another thing that I really liked was that, yes, this episode kind of left a lot of things out, changed a lot of things, but the main plot points in this were still there. The main plot points being Clary goes to Pandemonium and meets Shadowhunters. Something horrible happens to Clary's mom. She is kidnapped by members of the Circle. Clary is attacked by a demon and traumatized and rescued by Jace. She finds out that Luke apparently can't be trusted, and then she kind of finds herself with nowhere to go but to stay at the Institute, and then Simon kind of finds her and starts asking what's going on. Overall, like I said, this episode was great. I think Simon was perfect. They had excellent comedic timing. They would have him just shout out these hilarious one-liners and then they'd cut from him. And not only did he just shout them out, but he did it so believably and so hilariously that I absolutely adored it. Overall, the only things that I'm really going to complain about it right now, obviously, are I hate the word stele. That sounds terrible, like I said. I don't like how the Institute's been updated to have all this technology and to have all these people in it. And I want Church and Chairman Meow. Not one or the other, I want them both. I'd probably give it about 4 out of 5 stars because I went in with really low expectations and it was really actually a lot better than I thought, but it still wasn't like the best, most magical thing I've ever seen. I will definitely be tuning in next week to watch the next episode. I know it's available on the Freeform app or freeform.com, but I'm going to wait till next week. And that was my opinion. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. Go ahead and comment down below. Let me know if you watched the episode, what you thought of it, what parts you liked, what parts you disliked. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, hit like if you like this video, hit subscribe if you really liked it, and I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks so much. Bye.
Your heart hits like a drum. The chase has just begun.